Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Tasty Tidbits Podcast. Get ready to receive rich, well-seasoned, and tasteful tidbits to transform your life. Each week, Dr. Tiffany comes to you with inspirational encouragement and thought-provoking interviews to help you revolutionize your walk with God. Are you hungry for more of His presence? Then get ready. And now, your host, pastor, author, and motivational speaker, Dr. Tiffany Watkins.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Tasty Tidbits. I am your host, Dr. Tiffany Watkins, and I am so glad to have you listening in and tuning in from wherever you are tuning in today. I'm excited about my guest that I have on the show today because I know it will help a lot of you guys, and she will give you a whole lot of good information on her personal journey to health and wellness. And so I'm just excited to hear what she has to say on today. So welcome, Stephanie. This is Stephanie Lueras, and she is a part of our podcast, but welcome.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here today and chat away.
Yes, I am so excited. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read to the audience your bio a little bit about you, and then I'll let you say a little bit more about yourself.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. So Stephanie, after coming to a point in her life where she was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and she needed some changes, through small actions and goal settings, Stephanie has lost over 200 pounds through a balanced nutrition and movement, and also without using any restrictive diets. And of course, we know that diets here, diets there, they're very restrictive. So I'm very interested about this, as far as the restrictive dieting without having to do that. And she's also without the commercial weight loss plans or any supplements. And she has gained a love of endurance sports, running marathons, and is currently training for the Ironman distant races. And she uses this same holistic goal setting model in working with clients in groups and individually to empower people to break down the everyday barriers that exist so they can achieve what they are working towards for their best wellness. So Stephanie is really the founder of the Heart and Soul Fitness and Wellness. So welcome again, Stephanie, and we're glad to have you. So just tell us a little bit more about yourself and what brought you into this field.
All right. Well, I came into this space through my own personal journey of losing over 200 pounds without dieting, finding my love of movement.
Wow.
And in the process, having people tell me, you need to show me what you're doing because it's not working, whatever I'm doing. And this was the story of my life. I was the kid who was put on my first diet at 5 years old. So I've been overweight my whole life. I have tried any diet under the sun. I have gained and lost hundreds and hundreds of pounds. I can tell you the studies are true. Diets do not work. But there is a lot of ways to change how we feel, to change our health outcomes, to feel great in the body we have. And it just took me a few decades to figure that out. But, for me, I'm a former pastor, and in that role, I was sitting there one day, and all of a sudden, I'm like, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. Everything looks great on the outside. Life is wonderful, but I was miserable.
Right.
Not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually. I just felt very stuck in life. And I'm like, so I just kind of cried out. I'm like, something's got to change. I don't know what it is, but something will change. And I'm that goal-oriented person. I'm very driven to figure things out. So I'm like, I don't know exactly what I'm doing or where I'm going, but let's look at some habits in life
Mm-hmm.
Very first thing I looked at was my hydration. I simply wasn't drinking water.
Right.
Instead of like going out and getting that giant gallon container and the crazy water challenges and all of that we see, I started with a little 6-ounce cup of water and a kitchen timer. Every time the timer went off, I had to walk to the other end of the office where the water cooler was, fill it up, and repeat. Just starting that habit of hydrating myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then building from there, it was, instead of going through the drive-through twice a day to feed myself and my husband, it's let's cook at home. Didn't matter what I was cooking, but I was going to cook at home. Then that habit became, well, let's start to look at some of the foods that we're eating. What makes us feel good? And started to change the way I was cooking. Then from there, I had just from hydrating myself, nourishing myself in a different way, I started to feel better, have lost a little bit of weight, and I'm like, all right, maybe it's time to start this exercise thing. Now, 200 pounds heavier than I am, I was very close to losing my mobility. And so the only exercise in my mind that was possible was walking. So that very first small step was, I'm going to walk to the end of the street and back. And in that, I wanted to die, but kept going. End of the street, around the block, around the neighborhood, building up that endurance and stamina. Get the idea one day that, oh, I wonder if I can run. Now, this is a foreign concept because I'm the girl that takes it in gym class. So running is not on my radar. But again, it was, let's go this short distance. It was like half a football field to the stop sign. I'm like, I'm going to run. Get there. And again, it's that I want to die. But something in that moment like clicked in my mind. And I'm like, ooh, I kind of like this. So being that person that's going to figure it all out, I go home and I'm like, I'm figuring out this fat girl running thing because there's something to it and I want to know more. So it was building up again that endurance and stamina, and then starting to get into 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons.
Wow, Stephanie, how long did that take for you to get into that?
So the biggest amount of change took place over about a 2.5-year period. I'm now in the 8th year of maintaining this journey of doing the things that serve my body best. And it's really just this place of breaking down the small things. But in the process of training for all these crazy events and things, working with my own coach and sports dietitian, that's how I became a personal trainer, because I wanted to understand more about what these people were teaching me about my body. I wanted to have that very clear understanding. So I got my personal training certification. I went for those nutrition certifications to really bolster my own knowledge. And then I came to a point with my husband and I where it was time for a change in life. We stepped out of the ministry. My husband has entered into the workforce, into a job that he loves. And this was the time for me to look at how to serve people in that very specific way. Instead of I'm serving everybody, it's this is the area that I want to walk alongside people to help them be successful because I know what it's like.
Wow. And that's an amazing story. And just thinking about what you had to do. And you said you started with little steps. And I think that's important for the listeners to understand is that, you don't have to make this big change all of a sudden. It starts with the little steps first. My sister, and, I'm trying, God had told me, you got to start taking care of your body. You have to start being healthy. If you want to live longer, you have to take that responsibility for your body. And so I said, okay, God, I'm going to make a decision to become more healthy. And I told myself, what I could do at first, which was, I said, okay, I'll go to the gym, I'll sign up for the gym and I'll go twice a week. So for this period of time, I've been going to the gym twice a week through a class where I have support, and people are helping me. And so my sister had asked me, and I've been, on this thing of watching eating and, but still working out, enjoying what I eat. And I know you're going to talk about that.
Yes.
But my sister was like, do you have to do this the rest of your life? And I said, yes, this is a lifestyle change for me, and I have to embrace it. But it takes time to get there for each individual, but you have to be determined and know your why or why you're doing this. And so, if someone is struggling in their health and wellness journey, what do you recommend for them?
The number one thing really is those small changes. And it's not sexy. It's not that magic wand and that that quick fix bullet that we're looking for. But the small changes over time is what fits our lifestyle, becomes sustainable, and ultimately is that long-term change that just becomes part of life. We get rid of this idea of the New Year's resolutions, or I'm going to start on Monday, or that magical date on the calendar, and really start to look at what is just the one thing that I can do right now to move me just that little bit forward to feeling better.
That's amazing. And, I was thinking about that too. When you were saying that, I had to decide, okay, what do I know that I can do that's doable right now, and take that first step? And so listeners, that's what Stephanie is saying. What can you do, even if it's a glass of water? Like she said, she took a little glass of water and she started doing that every day. So whatever it is in that part, make a decision within yourself that you're going to go on that place in your journey to take better health. It could be that you get rid of sodas once a week, whatever it is that'll get you in the mood to be able to say, I'm on my wellness journey to get to that place, because it didn't happen overnight for Stephanie. But she kept at it and she kept being consistent. And that is a big key. And you talk about, Stephanie, a lot, accountability. So, why is accountability important?
Well, accountability keeps us on track. And it's one of those words that a lot of us get a little cringy at. It's a dirty word. Nobody likes to be held accountable, because in our mind, we have that idea of, somebody's behind us with a whip, making sure that we're staying on the straight and narrow. But that is so far from what accountability truly is. Accountability is simply the people and the resources and the structures that are there to support our success. And so it might be people or a group. Like you said, I went to a group fitness class because that's where I found the encouragement to keep coming back. We find the different things that are going to encourage us, are going to really spur us to keep coming back. But accountability is also that part of, I don't have the resources or the wherewithal in myself, so I need that insert whatever here to keep me going. Because not every day is sunshine and roses.
Right.
If it was, we'd have no problem reaching whatever goal it is. Yes. But those people, resources, and structures, we get to choose what they are and how they are supportive for us.
That's true. And that, Stephanie, that would be different from each person, right? For each individual person, because only listeners, what would work best for you. And it's good to find that support system that would work best for you in order for you to reach your goals. Because what may work for Stephanie may not work for me, but we have to find whatever it is that's going to motivate us in order to reach our goal, or reach our life focus, because it's not just the goal. This is something we wanted to keep and make a lifetime habit. Do you agree with that, Stephanie?
100%.
Yes. So you have to find that, listeners, and don't give yourself an excuse, because excuses will excuse you out of the way of where you're desiring to go. You just have to just jump in there, at small steps if you need be. If you want to do major steps, but even in jumping in, like Stephanie said, in small steps, that would get you on the road to the health transformation that you desire. And so, Stephanie, you work from a weight neutral stance. Now, what does that mean for your clients, and how do you work with them?
The one thing that I ask people to do is put the scale away.
Yay.
They're other than a number, the measure of our gravitational pull. That number gives us very little information. And so if we can start disconnecting from that daily weighing, that weekly weighing, and get away from those really numbers focused goals and look at my favorite question of how do you want to feel, we start to really get to a place where people are more open with themselves, they're honest, and they're engaging in activities that support them better. And the best example is, when we start to really introduce this idea of weight neutrality and not focusing on the scale. Someone might come in my office and say, hey, I want to lose X number of pounds. That's awesome. And I'm not going to discount that, but I want to know why you feel like you need to lose weight. Because we have a lot of whys, but sometimes it's not top of mind. So it could be, I want to feel better. I want my clothes to look better. We keep asking why over and over again, because then we start getting even further of, I don't want my joints to ache. I want to keep up with my kids and grandkids.
Yeah.
I want to go up the stairs without huffing and puffing. I want to get up off the floor if I fall down without help. And we start to get these really vulnerable answers because we don't like to think about that. We think if we just lose the weight, our problems are going to be solved. But when we start to look at those really vulnerable whys, that shows us the building blocks to those small action steps you're going to take. We then see, okay, we're going to look at your nutrition. We're going to look at your balance, stability, endurance, stamina, and start to break that down and build it up. Ultimately, you're going to get to that place where you feel how you want to feel, where those goals are met. The scale might move, it might not move, but a lot of times that becomes inconsequential. If we're feeling good, if we've reached whatever that point is or are moving in that direction and see those results, we tend to really let go of our grasp on that number.
Yes. And, that is so, I'm glad you said that, Stephanie, because, when I first started working out, I would always look at the scale and I would get so frustrated because it's like, I'm not losing, like I desire to lose. I had changed the way I eat, and I was going and working out and doing those different things. And I had heard someone say, well, don't you discourage yourself. Don't look at the scale every day. And I've noticed it since I haven't been looking at the scale, I've lost weight. I've been losing weight. And the only reason I had to get on the scale because I had a recent doctor's appointment. And so I was like, and then I was dreading, Stephanie, going to get on the scale when I went to the doctor because I didn't want to know how much I weighed. I didn't want that discouragement to come. And so when I went, I had lost weight, but not seemingly what I should have lost. But I had to remember I have lost weight because my clothes are looser now. So it has to be muscle weight and not just, body fat. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the thing is we might not see the difference on the scale, but our body composition changes, how our clothes fit changes. We get caught up on the arbitrary numbers of the scale or the BMI. Well, first of all, the BMI is just a bunch of baloney because it's created for white men. So why are we as women using it in the first place?
Yes.
And so there's so much we have to look at. Yes, we know that there are things about our habits that impact our health outcomes. We are conscious as a society of things like blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes. We could name things all day. There are so many habits that can be adjusted, that can be worked on, that change those health outcomes that have zero to do with how much you weigh.
Wow. And that is so good to know. And I know the listeners that are listening in are being encouraged right now because, we have to set ourselves free from just constantly looking at that scale. It is a necessity. It is a necessity. And I know you mentioned that, just start making the small changes first. But, if there's someone at the very beginning of their wellness journey, what is another thing or the best advice you would give them?
Just really looking at what is the sustainable thing that I can do today. We even start with that idea of, like you talked about, I'm going to the gym twice a week. Well, for some people, that might even still be overwhelming. And we get to that mindset of, well, if I'm not working out for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, then it doesn't count somehow, that I haven't done anything for myself. We forget the cumulative effect of the things that we do. So if we are changing one meal or one snack a day, if we are moving 5 minutes, 6 days a week, well, hey, that's 30 minutes. You have moved your body. And so we often forget there really is an impact for the little things, because it's not just one little thing in isolation. It adds up.
That is so key. And I think that's what has helped me to be consistent, because I don't force myself to continue to do something, but I do a little bit at a time. And so I appreciate you sharing that with the listeners, because I want to build myself up to, another day, but I don't want to feel forced about it. And I don't think, but I've seen results just by doing it this way. And I think your model and listeners, it would be behoove you to really, after the show, to go and listen to her, and she's going to give you her information to see how she lost the 200 pounds without having to do all of these major things, but just taking it day by day. And so she has experience with this. And so with her being able to experience that, then she can encourage you along the way. But I thank you for saying that, Stephanie, because I think that's what, got me to be consistent, is just saying, okay, what little thing can I do today? And after that, you build.
And you build, because just like you said, I've seen results. I've seen transformation. So it keeps me in that place where, well, what's the next thing can I do? Where can I push it just a little bit forward? Right. Instead of, I introduced this huge thing all at once. It's overwhelming. It doesn't fit my schedule. It doesn't fit my family. It might not even, for the long term, fit my finances.
Right.
But when it's okay, I started it 2 days a week. I feel different. I'm looking different. I want to see kind of what happens next. We're more open to that continual building process of, okay, well, what is next? Is there a third class I want to try? And really keep that momentum going.
That's right. And that's the way I felt. And I'm like, I'm doing so good. I think I can go up to that extra day. And so it's just being comfortable where you are. And once you see that transformation, just a little bit, then you just push yourself a little bit more. Because I remember, Stephanie, I was, at one time had this coach, they had me eating salads every day. Well, I knew I was not, for the rest of my life, I love to eat. So I am not going to eat a salad every day. I had to eat a salad. I had to eat nuts, and then I had to eat like, one meat, meat and vegetables, which I love that I can do that. But just the idea of every day, having to just do that every day, it seems like it just trapped me. And I hate to feel trapped. And I think a lot of listeners listening, you don't want to feel trapped, because like you said earlier, you'll feel miserable, and you're not doing it. You'll feel trapped. And so you have to do, like you said earlier, like Stephanie said earlier, doing things that support your journey and encouraging you to go further than where you are. And so you've had some client success. So tell us about one of your client success and transformation.
My favorite is I have a gal in one of my group fitness classes that I teach. And she's, shall we say, a little more seasoned in life. And her goals are to really build her strength. She understands that as we age, that muscle stability, that strength, it starts to break down. She wants to live a long and independent life. And she knew she wasn't in a place where she was supporting that goal. And so when she started with the classes she was taking, one of the things was she had this piece of equipment in her living room that she could never lift when she was cleaning. So she'd always have to call her son from across town to come and move it, and so she could vacuum and do the things. After a few months in starting to build up her movement, her balance, that stability and strength, she was vacuuming, and one day all of a sudden picks it up, does her vacuuming with the other hand, and stood there in this state of shock that, oh my goodness, all of these classes, all of this showing up in doing just a little bit more, going a little bit deeper, pushing myself a little bit further, I can now sustain things. I can move things around that I couldn't do. I am really holding firm to that independent lifestyle that I want to keep.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And that was, it's interesting that you say that, Stephanie, because that was one of my reasons for really just making my change, is because I want to remain independent for as long as I can. I'm very independent, so I don't want to have to depend on anybody to do anything. And, if I can do it myself. And so I want to be able to be there to the point of where I can sustain myself. And I think that's what a lot of listeners want.
And that is such a huge concern of more women than you would imagine. Just that independence, being able to move their body without assistance. Even, in younger people, I hear I want to be able to get up off the floor. Mm-hmm. And we look at sometimes, what does that mean for me to really gain that independence, to maintain that independence, and to have that freedom to not have to depend on someone else.
Yes, and the way we see a lot of people that we may come in contact with, that they have to have that assistance, it makes us question what we're doing with our own health lifestyles. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well. And so it's just very important, if that's something that we're reaching towards, that it can be done. And that's what Stephanie's saying. Wow, she's lost 200 pounds. So that's awesome, because it says it can't be done. If, you might say, well, Stephanie's lost 200 pounds, but that is not me. But as she said earlier, she took small steps first. So you always have to take those small steps first, and even reaching out to her with her business model and things and how she does it, it would help you. So Stephanie, what makes your business model different from the other health professionals?
What I do with my clients is completely individual. There is not a canned program. I am not handing you a diet plan and saying this is how you eat, because just as many people as there are that roam this earth, there are that many different ways of achieving health and more. And so it's really sitting down, spending that time, fostering a relationship, understanding what it is you want to accomplish and how we're going to get there. And also superimposing, how does it fit life? Mm-hmm. I don't expect that everybody's going to want to go out and run marathons like me. That's not realistic. Not everybody likes that kind of movement. But there is some kind of movement for everyone. And it's uncovering what it is that you enjoy. And if you're not at the point where that type of movement is something that's fully accessible, it's making modifications. It's making things accessible and adaptable so that you feel comfortable moving your body in the way that feels good.
That's amazing. And like I said, we have to be willing, and you're there, Stephanie, to be that support. And I think that's one of the biggest things that you need is that support. You have to have that support and that encouragement, that accountability that you talked about, because all of those is what it takes. And, you know, I love that you said everybody is different, you know, so you cater to the individuality. And then while you were talking, I was thinking about when I first started the particular gym that I was going to, they assign you a personal trainer, free personal training. And so when you go through this personal training, this particular model, you had to stay under so many calories. You could only eat restrictive diets, you know, and it was very restrictive. And I was like, well, can I at least have one cheat day? And they was like, no. And I was like, nope, I'm not paying my money to be miserable. And I told them, I said, I'm just not going to pay my money to be miserable, you know, because I have to have something that I don't feel like I'm restricted. So for you to say that you work individually with the person in order to make the changes necessary that will work for the individual, that's, I believe, the most important thing that helps in your weight loss journey. You have to have that. Now, some people may be, you know, they have to have, you know, this restrictive, but for most of the time, and research has shown that if you're very restrictive like that, you're going to revert back, you know, most of the time.
It is. And oftentimes when we look at the traditional diet model with some form of restriction, the results aren't good. But when we look at food in a much broader way, when we look at food as not only the fuel to make the systems of the body go, but it is traditions and culture and enjoyment, and sometimes even how we cope with life. Mm-hmm. We have to look too at the relationship we have with food, because so often it's not actually about the food itself. Our struggle is in how we use food. And that's where that individuality comes in, because it would be a really privileged way to come at somebody and say, this is how you have to eat. Mm-hmm. They may not have those types of foods available in a close proximity to them. They may not have the financial means to go out and buy this or that specialized thing, and they may not even like it. We have to really take that restriction off the plate and look at what people are eating, how they're eating it, how they're using food. And then instead of that place of restriction, that place of almost subtraction, we look at addition. In okay, this is what you're eating. Where are some of the gaps? Are there particular nutrients you're missing? Is there a pattern to the way you're eating that maybe we can move some things around? You still get to eat all the things you love, but maybe in a different way. The example I always give is pasta. I can't eat pasta at night. It hurts my stomach. I wake up with a migraine. It is bad news all around. But if I eat pasta at lunch, I'm fine. It gives me energy for the day. I don't have that afternoon slump. So sometimes it's just really being that non-judgmental experimenter and seeing, how does food affect me?
That is awesome. I just love it, Stephanie. I mean, everything you're saying, I just love it because it just makes me feel free. And when you feel free, then you're more likely to do what you desire to do because you feel like you're able to do it. And so the way your model is it makes you free to know that, hey, you can do this without struggling, to the end to where you just want to give up. And so listeners, I encourage you today, and she's going to give her information, but I want to encourage you. You can do all things through Christ that strengthens you. Don't limit yourself. You don't limit yourself. Don't say, I can't do this, I can't do that, because it's all a mental thought. It's all in your thoughts. It's all in your mind, and it's all in your head. And you have to determine and say, because of my why, whatever your why is, you're going to be determined to say that I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. I'm going to take one step a day. Even if I just do one thing a week, I can do that. And then you can begin to see yourself turn into a better person. But that's why we have Stephanie on today, that if you need that extra push, she is more and willing to help. So thank you so much, Stephanie, for blessing us with your presence today on the podcast. Would you tell the listeners how they can contact you?
Yes, I am on all of the social media networks in some iteration of Heart and Soul Fitness and Wellness. And soul is spelled S-O-L-E. But easiest way to find me is on my website, Heart and Soul, S-O-L-E, fit.com. All my goodies are there. All my information is there. My blog. You can even click on the scheduler and set up some time with me. And let's have a conversation about what wellness looks like for you. Because I realize I'm not the right fit for everybody, but I also have cultivated a huge referral network of people that I trust, that I would feel very comfortable in saying, hey, this is what you're struggling with. Why don't you go talk to this person?
Awesome. So listeners, also in this episode, you will see the link where you can click on to her website and be able to get directly there, so that you can get the resources that you need in order to better yourself. And so thank you again, Stephanie, for being on the show today.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you. And listeners, I am so glad to have you again. Look forward to having you on our next episode. And until then, God bless. Have a wonderfully blessed day.
Thank you for listening to Tasty Tidbits with Dr. Tiffany Watkins. If you're enjoying the show, feel free to subscribe, rate, and share with your friends. To learn more about Dr. Tiffany, check out her blog on goodreads.com or visit her website at www.renewedfaithministriesinc.com. Until next time, stay blessed.